and then honorable members, the political leadership
Recording in progress.
of the political leadership of the Department of Public Service and Administration, and the board members that will be around for this presentation of the APP of the department and its entities. I might have to get a sense as to whether do we have the minister and the deputy minister, so that we can then allow them an opportunity to give us opening remarks. And the
Chairperson?
you have the minute. Yes, Rebecca?
Oh, okay, no, it's fine, because I was told that the minister was struggling to log in, but I can see that the minister is in now.
Okay, beautiful. I think then without any waste of time, let me then welcome the minister and the commissioners, and also the delegation from the School of Government and the Center for Innovation. Today's meeting is particularly geared towards a presentation from the department on the APP of the Department of Public Service and Administration, the National School of Government, the Public Service Commission. Earlier on, the Committee Secretary, Dr. Flubeka, had published the agenda, and the agenda as it is. We will be starting with the briefing by the department, together with the Center for Public Innovation, and also then it will be the National School of Government, and then it will be the Public Service Commission. Then thereafter, we will then engage at the level of question and answers. So it is important that members must be able to take down issues of clarity seeking question and engagement as we go through the presentation, such that by the time we are done with the presentation, we are then in a better position to engage. So without any waste of time, let me give over to the Minister to give us a welcoming remarks. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and the members of the committee, the Deputy Minister, the DG, and officials of the department. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity to present the strategic plans and the APPs of the department and its entities. Both the EA and the officials, we are committed to the principle of parliamentary oversight. The officials will give a detailed presentation. I just want to flag the following issues. First, in relation to the Department of Public Service and Administration Strategic Plan and APP, in line with the priorities of the 6th administration, the DPSA 2020-25 Strategic Plan and the 2022-23 Annual Performance Plans are informed by the aligned to priority 1 of the MTSF, building a capable, ethical, and developmental state. Also focusing on the following departmental strategic priorities: the improved implementation of Batupili, the complete implementation of the Public Administration Management Act, a stabilized public service, intensifying the fight against corruption, and improved implementation of administrative policies. I also need to flag Program 3, negotiations, labor relations, and remuneration management, which focuses on the following: strengthening collective bargaining processes for the state in the Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Council, the personnel expenditure reviewed, the job evaluation system for the public servants, discipline management strategy, all justice, crime and prevention and security cluster departments supported to implement this lifestyle audits, as well as Program 5, which is government services, access and improvement. The department is working hard to change the prevalent perception of the public service as lacking dedicated, ethical and skilled personnel that are professional and capable enough to respond to the challenges of the service delivery that face the country today. In relation to the National School of Government, the NSG, a priority of this administration is to build a capable, ethical and a developmental state. So the NSG must ensure that it provides training and development opportunities to public servants and elected public representatives in order that they fulfill their responsibilities. I am encouraged, Honorable Chairperson and members, that the elected representatives and appointed officials are going back to class in spite of the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. These include members of the executive in the 3 spheres of government, the state entity board members, public servants, and public sector leaders. As the Ministry of Public Service and Administration, we are now at an advanced stage of finalization of the national framework towards implementation of professionalization of the public sector. And in this year, we will be submitting the final framework for the approval of the cabinet together with clear implementation proposal. So the NSG has made significant strides over the past 2 years, including the following. There's seen an exponential growth in the e-learning environment over the past 2 years, exceeding the targets, hosting successful leadership development interventions, including the School of Economics Governance and the Program on Executive Oversight, partnerships with 10 national higher education institutions as well as international institutions, the rollout of flagship programs in the areas of effective governance, gender and transformation, leadership, induction and policy and regulation. In relation to the Center for Public Service Innovation, the CPSI, Strategic Plan and APP, I should just flag. The CPSI remains a critical role player in the transformation of the public service. It has to facilitate the development of an enabling environment that allows innovation to thrive and catalyzes improved service delivery performance. Within the Public Sector Innovation Program, there are 3 sub-programs: research and development to inform the selection and development of the potential innovative models and solutions, institutional support and replication for mainstreaming of innovative solutions for the public sector to improve service delivery, and then enabling environment and stakeholder management, which develops and maintains the partnerships and stakeholder relations to enhance that cooperation. So the targets and outcomes of that strategic plan align with these broad areas and objectives. And it's worth mentioning that the CPSI achieved the 5th annual clean audit, leading by example. So the programs include the annual Public Sector Innovation Conference and the webinars, the annual Public Sector Innovation Awards, and the publication of ideas that work, the South African Innovation Journal. In relation to the Public Service Commission, the PSC Strategic Plan and APP, I would want just to flag the following. The PSC is at the heart of the priority 1 of the MSTF, a capable, ethical, and developmental state, and has realigned its strategic plan and targets accordingly. The PSC is therefore part of the programs dedicated to the professionalization of the public service. Hence, the 2021-24 strategic plan outputs include the following: improved culture of service delivery, sound leadership practices in the public service, a well-coordinated monitoring and evaluation system, as well as the tightening up on time taken to complete investigations. I also need to flag that the PSC provincial offices respond to specific provincial issues right across the country, e.g. in the Eastern Cape, inspection of the implementation of service delivery reports on the school children crossing dangerous rivers. Right, even in the other provinces, there are programs which they are following very meticulously. Again, thank you for this opportunity, Chairperson and members. Then I think the DG and the leaders of the various entities will be able to give the details. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Minister, for the opening remarks and setting the scene for your team to forge ahead. Over to you, DG. May I just say that it's going to be a marathon meeting, Honorable Minister. So the team must be mindful of the fact that it is this meeting is starting at 18 hours, so they don't have to go word by word. They must just speak to the presentation so that we have ample opportunity to engage. Over to you, Minister, and the DG. So
thank you, Comrade Kenny.
Thank you, Minister. DG.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon, Chairperson and the honorable members. Can I just ask before we start, confirm the time that were allocated for the presentation, Chairperson?
You have 30 minutes, DG.
Okay, I'm going to ask Chair, I'm expecting a load shedding anytime in my house. So I've asked a colleague to help with the presentation. He will take over, and I will just advise him to try and ensure that we don't exceed at least 20 minutes for both the presentation on the APP as well as the financial information that we're supposed to be presenting on. So there's two colleagues, the CFO as well as Mr. Siabulela, who is our director responsible for strategic planning. With your permission, Chair, I will hand over to him and I will ask him to spend 15 minutes on the presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, DG.
Thank you very much, DG. Oh, thank you very much, DG. Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, committee members. I'm not sure if you can see my presentation from your side, but
Yeah,
I will try to be.
We can see, you can just show your face for the purpose of recording and then message ahead for the media purposes.
Okay. Yes. I'm not sure if you can see my face from your side.
We can, but we can proceed. We'll find a way.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me to
Siabulela, just before you start, oh yes, I wanted to ask that it be put on presentation format. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, DG. Thank you, Chair. Basically, this is a presentation as already DG alluded that it's a 2022-2023 annual performance plan and the revised strategic plan. I'm not going to spend more time on the outline of the presentation. However, I think it is very important, Chair, just to outline that this annual performance plan demonstrates the commitment of the department on how is going to contribute towards achieving the priority number 1 of the MTSF, which is, I think all of us, we know that we are working very hard to ensure that we are building a capable state and ethical and developmental state. However, it is very important, Chair, just to appreciate the fact that this APP is also aligned with our strategic plan, which was developed which we started in 2020. And also, as you recall, that our strategic plan consists of 5 priorities. However, this APP is also having a clear intervention targets that are seeking to demonstrate the implementation of our strategic plan. And currently, the current APP consists of 26 annual targets, as you compared in the last financial year. So at a macro level, really, this APP is outlined. But however, this is our strategic overview, Chair. As a department, we are working very hard to ensure one thing that we are a professional institution, productive and responsive public service and administration. And we are underpinned by our very clear values, which we think that we are a belonging institution. We are a very care institution, and also we serve. I'm not going to spend more time about our vision, Chair, but I think our mandate as the PSA is underpinned or is drawn from the 3 important documents. The first one is the Constitution. If you recall that chapter 10 of the Constitution, which is section 197, state that the TPSA, we must strive to ensure that a public administration must be governed by the democratic values and the principles attached in the Constitution. So these are the functions that really we are expected by the Constitution to be driving on a daily basis. So they are very clear in the Constitution. However, Chair, we do have a Public Service Act of 1994, which also outlines our mandate and also our function, together with the Public Administration Management Act, which really seeks to provide, as a department, we must be able to provide a uniform legal framework across 3 spheres of government for bringing some degree of commonality of purpose in the public administration areas. So I think this is what really make us to ensure that we understand our mandate and we are clear on what we are expected to be driving. Chair, again, this one is executive management structure. As you know that we do have our minister who is acting at the moment, and also we are also being led by the deputy minister and also the DG, which also we do have DDGs at the different programs. Currently, we have 5 programs as the organization. So this is really the leadership of the department, Chair. And again, Chair, as I was already mentioning, that this APP is underpinned and aligned by the strategic outcomes. Currently, there are 5 outcomes. When we were developing the AP or reviewing the APP, we didn't change any outcomes. We will be continuing during the term to ensure that really we are achieving these 5 broad outcomes. The first one, Chair, is more about improving the implementation of Batupile. As the organization, we did really develop and revive the Batupile program or strategy to ensure that really, as the public service, we're really creating value right on the ground and ensure that colleagues are really implementing our policies based on the Batupile strategy. We are really, Chair, ensuring that we are fighting corruption on a daily basis. We do have programs that, or Chief Directorate that is designated to ensure that is really assisting the public service to fight against corruption. And other priorities are more about ensuring we're improving the implementation of Public Administration Management Act, as well as ensuring that really we're improving the implementation of administration policies. Chair, as part of the refresher, Chair, is that as you look at the revised MTSF targets, our minister is having a responsibility to drive these 9 targets, Chair. The first target, and I think I must not spend more time, but they are clear. But let me assure you, Chair, that all these 9 targets, when we started this current administration or term, we did ensure that our APP is also finding expression about this target. Some of them are going to be achieved during this current financial year. Some of them were achieved in the last financial year. For example, Chair, last financial year, we did manage to develop the lifestyle audit guidelines, which are really trying to seek to ensure that we are strengthening the issue of lifestyle audit within amongst the employees of government. Chair, we are continuing again to institutionalize the professionalization code of ethics amongst the public administration. So these are the work that are really finding expression in the APP, and we hope that by the end of March next year, we'll be able to demonstrate the things that we achieve regarding that areas. Again, Chair, there are 10 targets that minister is expected to be supporting other departments that are instructed to lead these priorities that are within the revised MTSF. You can see in the presentation, Chair, that we demonstrated who are the departments that are leading this target, but what will be our contribution? We are fully aware, Chair, that some of these targets we don't have a control in terms of our mandate as a department, but we do have system procedures that are in place to support other departments in terms of trying to assist them to achieve these. For example, the issue of DDM, Chair, we've been working very hard with the COGTA department to ensure that really we are developing a joint plan together with the COGTA in order to ensure that really we are assisting the department to really achieve the implementation of DDM. Chair, again, this is just a strategic overview of our programs. As I was saying, that DPSA consists of 5 programs. If you look at the previous years before this current term, we used to have 6 programs. However, because of we wanted to refocus and focus on the things that are really affecting the broader picture of public services. Hence, we tried to revise our structure. Hence today, the DPSA is operating with 5 programs, but the core programs within program 5 are the human resource management and development, the negotiation, labor relations and remuneration management, and e-government services and information management. The last one, Chair, is the one that is key, which is the face of the department in terms of the service delivery, which is called the government services, access and the improvement, Chair. Again, Chair, in terms of program 1, the department or program 1 is continuing to provide the strategic leadership, management, and support services to the department. This responsibility, Chair, again, is being driven at the office of DG, where currently they are on a daily basis providing that strategic leadership, so that at the end of the day, we can be able to ensure that the strategic trust or the political trust that is given from the office of minister is really cascaded down to everyone or to every unit. Hence, it is very important that we are driving or providing the strategic leadership. So again, in terms of the measurements or indicators on the target under program 1, Chair, we have 7 targets that the department will be driving during the current APP, which is 2022. Chair, I think as the organization, we decided also to strengthen or to continue to strengthening the provision of financial management, especially the internal control and compliance services, by ensuring that we are monitoring, Chair, the fruitless and wasteful and irregular expenditure. Hence, the department really does not have a fruitless and wasteful expenditure, Chair. However, Chair, you will recall that in terms of the Broadband Economic Empowerment Act of 2003, it stated that Section 13G, Chair, it stated that all the departments must be able to ensure we report, right, on the compliance of broadband-based economic empowerment. Hence, the organization, we took a decision to measure the biannual reports in order to ensure really we are complying with 2003 Act. Again, Chair, we are very sensitive and around the issues of institutional capacity to mainstream the issues of gender, youth, and disability. Hence, as an organization, we took a decision to ensure that really we are measuring the SMS position, the women at the SMS, we take a decision that we must measure 50%. So again, as an organization, we will continue to ensure, Chair, that we are striving to ensure that we are tabling those 2 important bills here. The first one is more about the Public Service Amendment Bill. We do have some challenges, but we think, Chair, that we'll be able to achieve those 2 targets around the Public Administration Management Amendment Bill and also the Public Service Amendment Bill. That is a nutshell about program 1, Chair, which is administration driven. Chair, program 2 really is more about the development and the implementation and the monitoring of human resource management policies, Chair. So really this program consists of 3 sub-programs, Chair, which one of the critical program is about human resource planning and also the public service leadership management, Chair. There are 4 targets, right, or indicators that the department is going to deliver during 2022-2023. The first one, Chair, we already developed the legislation framework on the mandatory in-service training for the public service development. However, Chair, this current financial, we hope that this directive is going to, we will develop a directive that is going to support, right, the implementation or the institutionalization of the legislation framework around the mandatory in-service training. The work is currently happening, Chair. And however, Chair, again, you will recall that last year, we started the exercise of reviewing the human resource management and development strategy. We are hoping that, Chair, this year we are going to get the approval. We are going to finalize that process. And also we already started to implement, to develop the implementation plan on how are we going to achieve our really predetermined objectives in our HRM&D strategy. Again, Chair, we will continue to develop the job competency framework for the public service, the whole country. The last one, Chair, which is the indicator which talks about the annual compliance monitoring report. Chair, we do have the Chief Directorate within our unit, which is called the Office of Standard and Compliance, which is really their mandate is derived from the Public Administration Management Act. Really, they are working very hard, Chair, to ensure that they are evaluating the appropriateness of norms and standards within public services and continuing to monitor and promote the compliance in the norms and standards. So on an annual basis, they are expected to develop, Chair, that compliance monitoring report just to assess the compliance of public service institutions, Chair. When I go to program 3, Chair, this program, their purpose really is to manage and oversee the negotiations. I think all of us, we are aware about the process of negotiations, and also they are responsible to oversee the labor relationship and the remuneration management. Chair, these are the sub-program within that program, Chair. I'm not going to waste more time, but however, Chair, the unit or the program is going to measure 6 clear targets. The first one is more about the issue of negotiation, Chair. We took a decision that, Chair, as a department, we appreciated that there is a gap. We don't have really, Chair, the bargaining policy. What we'll do this year, we are working very hard to develop the collective bargaining policy and also the procedures that is going to really assist the process in terms of strengthening the collective bargaining processes for the state in the public service. So that is the first clear deliverable that we are planning to do. However, Chair, within program 2, we've been requested in previous years to ensure that really we look at the functional structures for program 1, Chair, look at the function and also trying to ensure that program 1 really is talking to the main or the key service delivery programs. Hence, the department really took a process of reviewing the generic functional structure for all program 1 within the public services. Again, Chair, there is a project that we also started, Chair, last year, and we hope that this year, which is this current financial year, we are going to be finalizing. It's called the Personal Expenditure Review Project, Chair. The purpose of this really project, Chair, is to review and also to check the issues of expenditure, especially the wage bill and other issues that makes really the personal expenditure to be high. So it's not a fixed exercise. I think it's going to be a fifth project since previous years. So we hope that, Chair, by this coming financial year, by the 31st of March, we will be able to finalize this project. There is a service provider that is in place that is currently working within the department. The issue of collecting data and other issues, they already started that, Chair. Again, we are expected, Chair, to conduct the job evaluation system, Chair. The department, again, we are busy with the process of getting the suitable service provider to conduct the job evaluation system. And I think, Chair, by having this system is going to be able to assist in future to support other departments in order to ensure the issue of institutionalization and application of the job evaluation system. Again, as I was saying, Chair, again, we do have the unit or Chief Directorate that is designated, Chair, to assist the public service to fight the corruption, Chair. As part of our strategies, we are going to develop, Chair, the discipline management strategy. And we hope that by the next one, by the 31st of March, we'll be able to have the strategy so that at least we manage the issue of a timely resolution of the disciplinary cases. Again, I think I already talked about the lifestyle audit guidelines. that we think we are going to be implementing in this current financial year. We are targeting the cluster of the Justice and Crime Prevention and Security Department, Chair. Those were going to be our priority for this current financial year. Chair, the fourth program is called the e-government services and information management, Chair. Their responsibility really is to create an environment for the deployment of information technology as one of the strategic tools for public administration. So really this program, Chair, is responsible to implement the e-government, is responsible to ensure we are strengthening the modernization and the digitalization of the public service. As I was saying that in order to ensure that we are implementing the e-government strategy, we need also to come up with some policies that are going to be able to assist and also give the guidance in terms of how do we develop, how do we implement this e-government strategy. So the first policy is more about the digital government policy framework that we are going to be developing, and we assume that by next year we'll be able, which is 2023, implement and monitor the implementation, because as CPSI, we want to ensure that really we are strengthening the modernization and digitalization of the public service. Again, there will be a standards which talks about the digital service attributes that we think that is going to be able to assist the organization when they are implementing this digital government policy, Chair. The last one, Chair, which is, I think is very important, because we already developed the public service data and information management strategy or framework. Now this year we are focusing to developing the directive in order to ensure that we are enforcing the culture of promoting the data management or the information management within the public service, Chair. So the last program, Chair, which is more really close to the service delivery, is their responsibility is more about managing and facilitate the improvement of service delivery in the government. There are almost plenty of sub-program within that program, Chair, but really they are critical because others are more looking at the service delivery planning and also operational plan management, which they are really dealing with the issues of business processes and other delivery modes and standard operation procedures. Chair, again, we do have a critical sub-program which is called Community Development and Citizen Relations, which is really, they are working very hard to ensure systems and strategies such as Batupile and other programs are being implemented. Chair, program 5 consists of 6 they are going to measure 6 targets, right? The first one, which I already mentioned, Chair, it's about the institutionalization, Chair, of the organizational functional assessment framework, which is one of the tools that the department is going to be implementing. Really, the tool is going to assist the department to conduct the capacity and the functional self-assessment. This current financial year, we are targeting 3. Next financial year, we will continue institutionalizing it, implementing and rolling out and supporting other departments, Chair. Another one, Chair, is more about the implementation of business process modernization. In the current financial year, we are targeting to partner with 3 departments, Chair, to start to begin to institutionalize the implementation of business process modernization. Again, Chair, I already mentioned that within the within the program, the Batupile program strategy was reviewed, and also current this year was also approved. So what we did as an organization is to take a decision to support, right, the Batupile program through 10 sector focus section per year, Chair, and also trying to reach almost all the all the provinces regarding ensuring that we are introducing and institutionalizing this revised Batupile program, Chair. The third last indicator, Chair, as you recall that the PSA is also responsible to develop the African peer review mechanism, second generation country, which the report was developed in the last financial year, was also presented to minister, and other countries were part were invited. However, Chair, one of the next deliverable when we developed the African peer review mechanism, a second generation country report, is to develop a clear APRM national plan of action, Chair. This national plan of action is having a clear deliverables with a clear time frame on how are we going to implement the recommendation that were drawn from the report. So as an organization for this current financial year, we will be busy consulting other stakeholders and developing this national plan of action. Again, there is a critical issue that the organization is taking serious around the issue of a service delivery improvement plan, because we believe that SDM is one of the tools that are very critical in order to improve the picture of the performance of the public service. So this current financial year, the department will assess, right, the department in terms of SDIP implementation, but also trying to introduce the automation, right, or automated system regarding the SDIP. But the bigger picture, Chair, is to also integrate the SDIP with the whole picture of the planning, Chair, because I think as an organization we identify that there is also a gap. So these are the strategies that we are trying to introduce in order to strengthen. The last indicator, Chair, is around the research study that is going to be conducted on the state of public service delivery. This current financial year, which is 2022, we are going to focus on the research study on assessing the maturity and also the state of public service delivery. And we hope that the study will be approved and conducted or commissioned this year. And also our aim is to ensure that we have a clear recommendation that are implementable, Chair, so that we can begin to address the service delivery challenges, Chair. And it's also part of the system thinking or the integration or approach, Chair. So, Chair, the last portion of our presentation is the revised strategic plan, Chair. We did review our strategic plan. As the management, Chair, we agreed that our strategic outcome are still relevant, all right? And then the only thing that we need to review is the organizational structure. Because the organizational structure was approved by the previous minister in October 2020, Chair, while we already begin implementing the current structure. Hence, this year, Chair, we reviewed our strat plan, ensuring that our strat plan is also talking with the current situation that is happening. For example, the previous structure, we used to have 6 program. Currently, we try to re-engineering and also ensuring that our program is more focused, not only internal, but also outside focused. Hence, we have the government service access and improvement. And also we established 2 chief directorate. I already mentioned the first one is about the Office of Standard and Compliance, which previous years was not there. And also the TAR, which is a Public Administration Ethics, Integrity and Disciplinary Technical Unit, Assistant Unit, Chair. So, Chair, this is a picture of our plan in terms of the things that we are committing the citizens that we are going to be driving in the current financial year, which is 2022. And we hope that by agreeing on this intervention, we assume that we'll be able to create the change that the country is seeking to achieve. Let me pause, Chair, and just give an opportunity our CFO to just give us the high-level allocation per program, and also, yes, thanks, CFO.
Good evening, everyone. It's Desiree Wilson here. I'm standing in for the CFO, who is unfortunately not available at the moment. I will Sia, if you will please navigate the slides for me. I think that would be easier than to reshare at this stage. Basically, the allocation for the DPSI budget is 540 million for the current financial year. And you will see that there's a slight increase over the MTF. Our budget also includes the transfer payments to the Centre for Public Service Innovation. You will see it there at the bottom at 44.5 million, 45.3, and then 47.4 over the MTF. I think you can go to the next slide. This is just a percentage breakdown of our allocation according to programs. You will see that program 1 is 45%, which is the highest. It should be mentioned that it also includes the ministry, hosting the minister and the office of the deputy minister. And then also it includes the IT services for SITA for the whole department, and also the building lease for the department. The second largest program is negotiations, labor relations, and remuneration management. And when we look at the breakdown, I will go into a little bit more detail on that. Next slide, please. The economic classification breakdown, you will see that compensation of employees is about 54% of our total budget. DPSA is basically service driven, and that's why our compensation is so high. Goods and services is 36%. Transfers, which the major part of that is the transfer to the CPSI, is 9%, and then a very small portion capital assets, which is mainly for computer equipment for the department. Next slide, please. If we look at the breakdown of program 1, these are the sub-programs. You will see the ministry there, departmental management. Corporate services is the largest of the sub-programs. Included there is our security services, our cleaning services, our HR, also our IT services, which is the majority of that cost is related to SITA services provided to the department. Financial management includes the audit cost for the department. And then office accommodation, you can see is at 62.9 million. That is the building lease, and also for the municipal accounts for the department. Next program, please. Program 2, Human Resources and Development. This is a smaller program. The majority of the money that actually stands out here, I think, is the Office of Standards and Compliance, which is slightly higher in the first year. That is due to the development of a compliance monitoring system that they are looking into. The others are basically just small growth over the MTF. Program 3, negotiations. This is our large program. You will also see here that under remuneration, employment conditions, and HR systems, which is the highest one there, it includes the personnel expenditure review in the first year. That is why the first year is higher than the other 2 years. And also a portion of there is our SaaS licensing that we use to manipulate the information on Persson. Also included in this program is the Government Employment Housing Scheme at 15.7 million, and then 17 million over the MTF. And then you will see the next one also slightly higher in the first year at 19.8 million. This is funding that was set aside for the development of the job evaluation system that will happen in the current financial year. Next program, please. Sia, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. Okay, this is the e-government services. The majority of the money that is allocated here relates to advisory services or professional services for IT advisors, you have seen that they are developing quite a few policies and prescripts in the coming years. If we can then go to our last program, program 5, which is government service access. There is no specific higher and lowers in this program. The majority or the biggest portion of this budget here is the transfer to CPSI at 44.5 million. Thank you. That is the story from DPSI. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Desiree, for that presentation. I understand the next presentation will be on CPSI. TG?
Good afternoon, good evening, Honorable Chairperson, members of the Select Committee, Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister. Thank you for giving the CPSI an opportunity to present to the Select Committee. I'm starting to share my presentation. Please alert me if you can see the presentation.
Yes, Ms. Bubeli, you can see it. You can continue.
Thank you, Chair. With your permission, I'll switch off my camera if I can, but no. I will proceed. Okay.
No
problem. Thank you. Thank you so much. Chairperson, I'll try to save you time. I think we are pressed for time, but I'll try to highlight the key issues that are in the presentation. Just as a matter of background, the CPSI is mandated through the Public Service Act to do its work. The mandate is further expanded in the government notice of number 700 of September 2011. That's our vision and our mission. We are a very small outfit, a very small national government component with only 2 programs. That's the first one, administration, with all those sub-programs in support of program 2, which is our core mandate, where we use the program to drive service delivery innovation in the public sector. We have 3 programs, as the Minister has already alluded to the programs. I will not go into detail with regard to that. 30 posts on the fixed establishment. We currently have only 2 vacant posts. That puts our vacancy rate at less than 10%, with just 2 posts waiting to be filled. They've been advertised and will be filled before the end of the first quarter. HR stats, I just want to highlight that people with disabilities, we have just 6% of staff are people with disabilities at CPSI. In terms of our 5-year strategic plan, Honorable Chair, we have not made any changes to the strategic plan 2020 to 2025. We have only 2 outcomes. The first outcome, which talks to effective corporate governance, relates to the work that is done in program 1 in support of program 2. Program 2 outcome is innovative culture and practice in the public sector entrenched. This is in support of what is outlined in the 6th administration agenda, also what is in the National Development Plan. It's a cross-cutting function that we provide at CPSI. Just to show you the full presentation of from the vision to our impact statement, outputs and activities, but the next couple of slides will then expand a bit on this. We have promised to deliver on these targets over the 5-year period. As you can see, 5 for program 1 and 75 for program 2. Minister has already alluded to our 5th clean audit. Honorable Chair, we hope we'll maintain the clean audit track record at CPSI. But just to give you an indication of how far we are since we started in 2020 in this 5-year term, we've already enabled 17 innovation initiatives in terms of 6 research projects and development projects that we've undertaken. I just want to highlight the public sector innovation rapid assessment that we've done, The next one that I want to highlight is the digital skills development and support of youth developers through hackathons. Those are some of the things that we've done over the past 2 years. 20 knowledge platforms, Minister again has alluded to those. We've also have a very robust replication program where we take some of the innovations that we come across and replicate them in other areas. We've already replicated the e-learning solution in Gauteng. We have replicated in Eastern Cape, in OR Tambo District Municipality, which is the DDM pilot site. The team is out currently replicating in Northwest and also in Free State. And Honorable Chair, I want to indicate that one of the issues that were raised in the previous engagement with the Select Committee was about the impact that the CPSI does through its programs. And we decided that instead of working in 1 or 2 sites, we need to expand, hence the expansion to Eastern Cape, Northwest, and Free State. Those are some of the solutions that we've replicated. I also want to highlight the Vulamans low-cost water filtration system that we replicated in Hammarsdal. Members will know the challenges that are there in that area in terms of water. We thought, let's just provide an interim measure while the infrastructure is repaired. And we think this innovation can be used in KZN with the floods. While the infrastructure has been repaired, we need to provide clean water to communities immediately. I will run through this slides, but I want to emphasize the second bullet there that talks to the SA-EU dialogue series. I think the DPSA mentioned that they are busy with a digital policy to digitize, public service. And we are working with DPSA and the VET School of Governance to learn from the Danish. Denmark is at the top of the United Nations e-government survey. So we've already had an engagement with them. The engagements will continue so that we are able to support the DPSA in developing an evidence-based policy when it comes to digitization. In terms of development initiatives that we work on, we are planning to work on, we are working with the Northern Cape. We started in the previous financial year. It will continue in this financial year to develop an online Tusong Center. Honorable Chair, you'll know that Northern Cape is a very sparsely populated province. They only have 5 Tusong centers. And in terms of service delivery, it becomes a challenge for communities to access, a Tusong center. So they came up with an idea of developing a Tusong center, a virtual one, and we are working with them to support them in the development of this solution. We had a design thinking workshop actually it's not a workshop, it was a working session now in March to refine the design of the solution. And we hope that as we move on in the MTF, some of the provinces will then take up this solution that we are working on with Northern Cape. The EMS patient transport e-hailing solution as well, we're approached by Gauteng Emergency Medical Services to work with them to develop a solution to address challenges around patient transport. We will keep the committee updated on developments about these 2 new development projects that we are working on. One of our key programs that we run, Honorable Chair, is the engagement with youth developers. We partner with youth organizations like Gig Culture, that you find youth, they are coders, they come up with solutions for real service delivery challenges. And this, as an example, we hosted what we call PSI Hack 22, which simply means Public Sector Innovation Hackathon 2022. And we presented, in this case, we presented the youth with a real challenge from one of our hospitals that was struggling with provision of linen to theater. Honorable Chair, members, you'll know that theater time is quite precious. You don't want to waste it. Book patients, and then when you're about to operate, there's no linen. Very critical, it may look like a minor thing in terms of when you look at linen and the theater, but it's quite critical for the hospital to be able to provide clean linen to theater so that operations are held on time. We'll keep you posted in terms of what comes out of that, but the youth developed a solution to try and address this kind of a challenge. So we work robustly with this organization to do hackathons, trying to solicit solutions from the youth. The e-learning solution, I'm not going to go in depth, but this is just an explanation of what the tool does. What I want to just highlight is that through that integrated platform, as the student learner steps into class, the teacher doesn't have to tick that Lydia is in class. As I log in as a learner, the educator can see that I am in class. So it sort of also alleviates administrative burden on the educators while they're supposed to focus on learning and teaching. The next slides, just an explanation of those innovations I spoke about. These are the targets that we have in terms of the current 2022-23 annual performance plan. In terms of research and development, we will do 4 in this financial year. Over the MTF as well, we'll do 4. In terms of number of knowledge platforms sustained, we have 9 per year, and we will sustain that over the MTF. Similar to the number of innovations replicated, we will do 2 annually over the MTEF. I will skip the quarterly targets, go straight to the budget. Honorable Chair, as I mentioned that we changed our budget structure. I just want to highlight on this slide that the plan in terms of repositioning the CPSI is to give more resources to research and development, institutional support and replication. And if you look at the allocations between the 2 programs over the MTF, there's a slight decrease in administration. And you can see that public sector innovation will start getting a bigger slice of the budget to try and strengthen program 2 so that we can deliver more. So it's almost a 50-50% split between the 2. The next slide just shows you where the money is going. If you look at per program, as you can see, executive support gets the lowest. That's where the ED post is. And enabling environment, stakeholder management, institutional support, replication, R&D, then there's a move towards making sure they get the bulk of the allocation. Allocation in terms of economic classification, similar to DPSA, 54% on compensation of employees, very intense in terms of our teams having to go out to visit projects and mentor and support departments, and goods and services, about 39%, payment of capital assets around 7%. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bokedi, for galloping through your presentation. That is highly appreciated.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
We will now move to the National School of Government, Prof, the DG of the school. You're welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies, I've got load shedding myself, so my system is giving me problems. So let me request Chairperson, my colleague, Mr. Dino Punsame, the Chief Director for Planning, to present. I also have a bout of flu, so I thought it's better that we allow him to present, but I'm here to answer questions later, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. We allow the team then to move on as per the delegation.
Thank you very much to the Honorable Chairperson and members of the Select Committee. Chair, good evening. My name is Dino Punsame. Now that you've seen my face, I'll switch off the video so I can proceed.
Thank you, no problem.
Good evening to our Honorable Minister and the Public Service Commission, the commissioners and the heads of institution and all of our colleagues who are here with us this evening. Chair, I think our minister has laid a very good foundation with regard to the work that the National School of Government is undertaking for the new financial year. Importantly for us, Chair, is that we foreground the work of the National School of Government on priority 1, and I think Minister has spoken quite explicitly about this. It is about building a capable, ethical, developmental state. And what is important for us, Chair, is that when we look at the different formations of the state, we do believe that as the National School of Government, there's a critical role for us to play with regard to a kind of education, training, and development interventions. And for us, the suite of our programs that we offer do fall within these different formations. The mandate of the National School of Government, Chairperson, is derived from Section 4 of the Public Service Act and most recently strengthened by the PAMA, the Public Administration Management Act. For that purpose, Chair, we've articulated the mandate of the school as follows. It is about providing education and training to our public servants or learners. It is about supporting institutional development, our public sector institutions. Importantly, and a very critical strategic thrust for the National School of Government over this 5-year period is about fostering collaboration and partnerships. We are currently busy, Chairperson, with our own qualification, and this is a space that we will be occupying in the near future as we look at the school offering qualifications to public servants. Our mandate, as Minister has also alluded to, is not just restricted to public servants, but also elected public representatives, and we're now widening our depth and reach across to reach the 3 spheres of government, the legislative sector, as well as organs of state. There is a program that we do have on offer, Chair, which is called Nukela, and that as part of our mandate, does empower us to conduct training or examinations or tests as part of as a prerequisite for appointment to the public service. Chair, we have also developed our service delivery model, which is aligned to the 5-year strategy and is also aligned to the structure of our organization. In this regard, what is important for us, Chair, is as we've articulated the value proposition of the school, we place centrally the learner or the public servant, the state as the employer, and the role that the state has to play, as well as the citizen, most critically the citizen. We've then articulated the value chain of how we deliver our services. But importantly, Chair, for us, as we move forward as the National School of Government, these are the critical value-adding functions we believe are important for us moving into the future. For that purpose, Chair, we've highlighted some of these areas that we are giving very dedicated attention to, which is around digital transformation, the partnership and collaboration, which I've spoken about, the brand positioning and management of the National School of Government, total quality management, making sure that the school abides to quality management standards in the form of its products, services, systems, business processes. Right across the organization, we want to build a total quality management system. And of course, change management as an important area for us as we transform as the National School of Government. Chair, our 5-year strategy has been developed in 2020. Our vision is to build an ethical and capable public sector in service of the people. And for us, we've made sure that it is also aligned to priority 1 of the administration. We aim to achieve this, Chairperson, through empowering public servants to be responsive to citizen needs and government priorities through our training interventions, our training and development interventions. Our 5 strategic outcomes that we seek to achieve, Chairperson, they are important for us. We are currently in the 3rd year of implementing this strategy, and this is the APP that we are tabling. We do believe that with regard to these outcomes, we are on track over the next 3 years for us to be able to achieve these outcomes. Chair, we thought it's important as the National School of Government, we had undertaken our strategic planning workshop, and we've looked at our strategy. As the school, we believe that the strategy we have put in place doesn't require us to undertake any significant review. We've looked at areas that we could enhance, but we do believe up until 2025, this is a strategy that we are still comfortable to, towards implementation. We thought importantly here, Chair, is that we should reflect on the first 2 years of the strategy implementation, which gives us a sense, of whether we are on the right track with the implementation of our strategy. And these are some of the, the achievements over the 2 years that we have had, Chairperson. Importantly, I think for us is that post the national lockdown and the start of the COVID pandemic is a significant change that the National School of Government has had to make towards, a shift towards the digital and online learning. And we've seen quite significant numbers in our e-learning enrollments over the past 2 years. In the last year, as we've closed up at the end of March, Chairperson, in excess of 80,000 enrollments on our e-learning platform. So I think this is an important space for us, but it's also a good trajectory to show us the direction for the National School of Government. Of course, there are certain practicalities that we've discussed with the Minister with regard to issues around data connectivity amongst many public servants. And these are issues that we will have to be engaging on within the broader state and within other state entities. There are some key programs that we also keep track of, Chairperson, our flagship programs, and you will note we speak about the Nukela program, which is the pre-entry into the senior management service. We reflect on the numbers, they are going quite well. And what is important here is that no individual who has completed or who has not completed the Nukela program can proceed for appointment in the senior management service. We've also been tracking our course on ethics, and you'll see the numbers there, Chairperson. In the first year of implementing the strategy, during the national lockdown, we've had 98% achievement from enrollment to completion. And in the last financial year, enrollments in excess of 40,000. Chair, we thought importantly also, as we come to the select committee, we should just provide a broad reflection of how the training is taken up at the different spheres of government. So there is a lot of work for us to do as the National School of Government within our brand strategy. We see at the local government level a lot of work for us in as far as expanding the work at the local sphere of government. The private here, Chair, does reflect the Nukela program, which allows for any citizen to be able to undertake a Nukela program. The provincial government is at 23.5% of the total numbers. And of course, here, Chair, there may be various reasons around this, noting as well that, that within 5 provinces, there are provincial training academies, and there are many other role players within the ecosystem of public sector education and training. But the biggest focus for us has been at national government level, and you'll see that's at about 74% of our training. So this is an important area for us, Chair, because as we look at our own planning for the next or for the current financial year and the future financial years, it does give us an indication of where to start placing more emphasis on. We've given a quick breakdown, Chairperson, per province on the trainings, how they have been taken up. And again, here, Chair, this is an important area for us in our own business development and planning to understand where to focus our attentions as we move forward. We've provided a synopsis of the breakdown by gender, and you'll see at 61% in as far as female trained against the 38% at male. Chair, I think importantly as well for us, we thought it's critical to bring to the select committee the issue of the evaluation of our training programs. The National School of Government is always, is always asked about this on the impact its training has. For that purpose, Chair, we thought it's important to share with the committee that the school does monitor all of its training programs, and we do an evaluation on a predetermined number of programs that allows us to look at continued improvement on the quality of our programs and the effect that this is having at the level of departments. And we do this, Chair, we use a range of different interventions as well as the evaluation methodologies guided by frameworks such as those from the DPME as well as our own policy framework. The evaluations for us is important, Chair, because it allows us to be able to test whether the training programs offered by the NSG are in alignment to the needs of public service, whether there are any changes in behaviors of individuals because of the training, as well as subsequent changes. Now, importantly here, Chair, we've done quite a few of these evaluations since 2013. So about 28 evaluations have been conducted by our unit. The findings generally reveal behavioral changes in individuals, especially where there are incidences where the correct target of participants was sent to a training intervention and the work environment of these participants is conducive for the implementation of newly acquired knowledge and skills. Of course, here, Chairperson, there's a lot of work to do as the National School of Government, working with other entities and other government departments towards making sure that the workplace culture and the environment supports the new skills and knowledge. We'd also found, Chair, during our application of learning studies that where there have been negative audit opinions were made against a particular department, those deficiencies got addressed once the officials, responsible for those functional areas attend training. So this is already, we can see it is having an impact on the audit outcomes of departments. And I think this is an important area for us when we do move forward. Chair, for the new financial year 22-23, the National School of Government has got two programs. So program one, administration, we have set out our targets. Importantly for us, Chair, as I've indicated, the total quality management is a key strategic thrust for us going forward. And we would want to then finalize a total quality management framework and plan for the NSG in this financial year. We are also, as part of our restructuring that is, that we have just concluded, we're now in line with our operations management plan, looking at how we map the different business processes and look at the gaps and areas that we need to strengthen within the NSG. As part of our digital transformation, we will be implementing business solutions that will enable our NSG operations, but also as the school looking at how we implement our brand and marketing strategy, supported by communications interventions to promote the NSG offerings. The second program, Chairperson, is what we traditionally refer to as the trade account. And this is the program where the National School of Government is required to generate its own revenue to sustain itself. The key indicator for us in this program, Chair, is to monitor the revenue to be generated. Our target for this year is at 101.3 million to generate in revenue and other funding sources. And our target is to train 40,460 learners on both compulsory and demand-led programs. We're also going to be doing a program, Chair, for senior managers on how to deal with all forms of discrimination. And our plan this year is to train 50% of senior managers in the public service. We have plans to also develop and quality assure 8 programs or courses in this financial year. And as we've made the shift, Chair, towards the open distance e-learning, we use the same opportunity to be able to convert these courses and programs into the open distance e-learning as well. Our business development interventions are important for us. They allow us to be able to look at the uptake of our programs. And for that purpose, we've set a target of 75% of business interventions that translate directly into the ETD interventions. Partnerships are key for us here, Chairperson, both domestically as well as internationally. And we will look at how these partnerships, at least 20% of those that we are signing that can get converted into direct ETD interventions for our public servants. There's some fascinating work that we're doing in the area of partnerships, Chairperson, and we'll reflect on that as well as we move forward. These are some of the other target areas for us, Chair. Importantly, I've spoken about the postgraduate qualification, and we will be looking at accrediting this in the financial year. As part of the professionalization framework that Minister has spoken about, the National School of Government will also look at professionalizing 2 functional areas, working with professional bodies. And on the impact evaluation studies, as I've indicated, we do have identified programs. And over the strategic period, we will be then monitoring these progress reports, looking at the evaluation studies. Now, how do we do all of this, Chairperson and members of the committee? The school has adopted a hybrid delivery modality, and these are some of the examples that we reflect on. So the virtual will continue. We have been able to adapt quite significantly over the last 2 years in making sure that we are able to roll out our training and development interventions using the virtual platforms. We will continue with face-to-face training, and we are seeing now that that public servants, public representatives are getting back to the classroom, and that's a positive sign for us as the National School of Government. But we're also focusing a lot, Chair, on the synchronous and asynchronous learning, meaning that we then offer as the e-learning type learning, which is study at your own time, at your own pace. And then you've got the live online virtual classes that we offer. An important area for us here, Chairperson, is that the school is also moving into the simulated learning environment. And at the bottom corner, you will see the example of using a flight school and the analogy of returning to the simulator, which allows accounting officers in particular to be able to plan their performance of their departments or of their entities, as in the same way that a pilot would be preparing a flight plan. Chair, there's some other areas of work very interesting that we do have on the horizon. It may not be in this financial year, but we are planning to use technologies such as augmented reality that would enable learners to fully experience a virtual learning type of an experience. Now, some of the programs that we will be rolling out and we continue, Chair, this is not new for us. We have been rolling them out and we will continue in the financial year. The Ethics in the Public Service, which is a compulsory course for public servants. We do believe that the course on Know and Live Our Constitution is very important for every public servant to be able to do this course, to enroll for it. It does promote awareness of the provisions that relate to the rights of citizens as well as our obligations as public servants. On the transformation and inclusion, we will be focusing on the program championing anti-discrimination in the public sector, as well as leading change by championing gender equality in the public sector. On programs such as effective leadership, we will continue with the Atella program, which is an executive program targeting accounting officers in the public sector, as well as the economic governance school, which has been done quite successfully, and we do that in partnership with the WITS School of Governance. On the induction and onboarding, Chairperson, these have been fairly new programs that we have introduced, but we have seen significant uptake most recently in these programs, the first being the induction program for boards of public entities. And we have seen quite a significant uptake and interest in this program. The second one is around ethical leadership and executive oversight program as well, which we will continue in our rollout. Some of the other programs will include on procurement and on public finance, so the contracts management, supply chain management. And importantly here, Chair, as we've introduced in our current strategic period, the thought leadership and the masterclass series, this is going to continue for us, and it will grow quite a lot over the next few years. We bring in different expertise, both from within the country as well as outside, to deal with very topical issues. And we've seen significant successes with the masterclass series, and this will continue for us in the near future. Chair, on the partnerships, just a synopsis of the partners that we have. Most recently, having entered into a partnership with the Brazilian School of Government, and we will be very soon launching that partnership. We've also entered into a partnership with the World Economic Forum, and through this forum, working through the NSG, we are then able to allow public servants to gain access to a knowledge portal that will allow all of us to be able to use this data, this information and knowledge to make better policy-informed decision and planning. And there are some other partnerships, which are important for us, Chair. We continue to manage them. Thunderbird School of Global Management, the Ryerson University, On the African continent, Chair, we do have already entered into bilateral arrangements with Ghana. We've got with Namibia, Lesotho, there's Rwanda, there's Kenya. We've been having interesting engagements here, Chairperson, as well. We've met with the High Commissioner of Zimbabwe a few weeks back, and there's a lot of interest for us to work with our counterparts in Zimbabwe. Now, some of the other private partners and the direct funding that we work with, these are some examples of these partnerships. The program that we've had with the European Union on public sector capacity building, has been a 5-year program, and that comes to an end now in June. And we've gained, quite significantly from this partnership in helping us to better support the public sector with regard to capacity building. Chair, we've also entered into MOUs with 10 of the universities here in South Africa. This is an important area for us here, Chair, because it helps us to build depth and expand the reach, through these universities. And the good thing about that is where the School of Government may not have the resources or the programs to offer to public servants, we are able to tap into these universities to be able to, to provide these. So programs that are not traditionally on our course offerings like cybersecurity and digital transformation, we're then able to tap into these universities. Chair, we've also established the NSG Senior Fellows, and this helps us to leverage of their expertise. We've been making use of the fellows through our thought leadership masterclass series, and we will continue to do so, not just in the use of the senior fellows, but in expanding the program over the years. With regard to our budget, Chairperson, as I've indicated, there's just Program 1 and Program 2. The budget for this financial year on the vote, which is on Program 1, is at 228 million. Of that amount, Chair, there is a transfer to the trade account, which is at 115 million. So the administration program gets 112 million. We provide the breakdown with regard to compensation of employees as well as the goods and services. Now, on the trade side, Chairperson, with the transfer that is from the vote, we are also required to generate revenue, which is at 101.3 million over the financial year. That would bring total expenses for the year at 220 million. That includes the compensation of employees for those who are employed within Program 2. On the human resource side, Chair, we thought it's important to reflect and just confirm that the National School of Government has been undergoing its own restructuring since the adoption of its 5-year strategy. We've now come to the to the conclusion of this process. We've now placed all of the employees into positions within the reconfigured structure, and we're now signing off on that process. This has resulted, Chair, in vacancies. We had at some point put a halt on the filling of our vacancies to allow more opportunities for our employees to choose where they would want to be placed. That has now resulted in a vacancy rate at about 10.9%, but we are now in the process of filling, in particular, starting with senior management positions, which are now being filled or be in the process of being advertised, and we will move from there. Our demographic profile, Chair, we provide a synopsis. I think importantly for us on the employment equity side, we do have a fair representation, females at 58.8% and female SMS at 51.2%. There is some work that we have to do, in particular with regard to the youth employment. We're currently at 19.1%, and for persons with a disability at 2.4%. The employment equity plan of the NSG, it has been approved, it is being implemented, and there's detailed work that we are doing to support employment equity, diversity, and transformation within the NSG. Chair, in conclusion, we thought it's important, as Minister has also reflected on the framework, the school has been instrumental in working with our sister institutions, the DPSA, the CPSI, the Public Service Commission, in finalizing the framework. We've undertaken significant amounts of work through public consultations and the peer review of the framework. We are now concluding on that, taking final recommendations to Cabinet for the adoption of the final framework. And that will come, as Minister has also indicated, with very clear implementation proposals. We are going to strengthen, as the National School of Government, our collaboration with the relevant institutions, such as higher education institutions and professional bodies, looking at how we can offer a series of targeted programs, be it part and full qualifications and other learning experiences. The partnership strategy, we will continue to emphasize both at international and domestic levels, and we will be engaging at both public and private partnership level. Importantly for us, Chairperson, one of the highlights that we are looking forward to in this financial year is the launch of our executive education programs. We are busy with some of the programs and we'll be adding more to the suite. We do believe that this is going to be really positioning us as the National School of Government, not just here within the country, but even at a global level with the kind of offerings that we will be making available. And finally, Chair, as we look at our own, organizational effectiveness, there's many areas that we want to improve, including seamless functioning of our delivery mechanisms, how we deliver our training, implementing the quality management. But ultimately for us is about improving the learner interface and the experience. And that will come through a lot of interventions, such as those that we have identified in the digital transformation framework for the NSG. Chairperson and members of the committee, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Punsami, for taking us through the presentation from the National School of Government. We will now move to the Public Service Commission. I understand we have the acting chairperson, Professor Fikeni. There is also Dr. Poshoff, Commissioner based in Free State, and also Commissioner Koya, based in Northern Cape. You are welcome, commissioners. Over to you, Professor Fikeni, acting chair.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson of the Select Committee. I will just make short remarks, recognizing, of course, the honorable members of the Select Committee, Minister C of CPSI, and the various institutions which have presented before us. I would like to start prefacing our remarks by saying the PSC is the creature of chapter 10 of the Constitution. And as such, that particular mandate from chapter 10 is very specific in us promoting the constitutional values in the public service, but also ensuring the effectiveness and efficiency of the public service. And it goes on to the monitoring. So we do that work across all departments. I do think that it might just be prudent to say, if we are to make real promises of our constitutional democracy and also issues raised in chapter 13 of the NDP, as well as the current emphasis on the government priority of having a developmental, ethical, capable state, it might as well help us to reflect on the recent disasters such as COVID-19, the riots, the floods, the state capture, and some failures in the municipalities, to say, what has it exposed in the work that we're doing? And what are the gaps that we ought to be looking at? And more importantly, it raises another question. If you listen very carefully to a DPSA presenting the National School of Government and the public sector innovation, CPSI, or even GPME for that matter, CSIR. How are we coordinating our efforts for greater impact, respecting the complementary roles, but without competing, complementing each other? That becomes very key, perhaps a conversation that in future we should begin to have each time we come to present, because at times those receiving might begin to say, but I think I've had that one in the first or second or third institution. And in our APP, as we are going to present, we have among the programs that we will be reflecting on identified those public service departments which may have greater impact on impeding or enabling the performance of the public sector. For example, during this period of lockdowns and restrictions due to COVID-19, the issue of ICT infrastructure and support across public sector has become the biggest risk that we've identified. Hence, we're going to be monitoring the effectiveness and the work of this, the SETA responsible for the ICT, and we have corresponded with them as well as with the department, the mother department. The other one is the one of the public works department, in as far as it provides accommodation right across, issues of compliance, issues of health compliance, even in the buildings that are occupied, have become a big issue. And these were taken because it's coming from different departments, different DGs who are raising this issue. And lastly, as I give over to the DG to present our programs, more recently we're receiving calls from people on the ground, whether local government or departments in KZN, who are saying we are beginning to suffer monitoring fatigue, where documents are asked by the same government, different departments, 7 times. At times, we even have to stop doing the work critical to the floods and the recovery. How do we coordinate our activities? PSC is raising that issue, even with the institutions of forums supporting democracy, because we belong to that forum as well of Chapter 9 institutions, even though we're Chapter 10, to say, how do we complement instead of compete? And how do we make sure that in that complementary space, the mandates are clearly delineated? And we also want to thank GPSA for the work they are doing to speed up also the passing of the PSC amendment bill, as they have been asked to make an input into that particular work so that we can unleash the potential of the PSC. So I'll ask the DG to make a presentation on our strategic plan and annual performance plan for 2022-2023. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Prof. Samadora Fikeni. The DG is welcome to take the podium now. DG.
Oh, apologies, Chair. I didn't realize that my mic was muted. Thank you very much, Chairperson, for the opportunity to give this presentation on the 5-year strat plan of the PSC, as well as the annual performance plan of the current financial year. In terms of the outline of the presentation, these are the topics that will be covered in the presentation. But in the interest of time, Chair, I'm going to skip the introduction as well as the environmental scan, because the chairperson has already covered it. Our acting chairperson has covered it in his opening remarks. What is important about this slide is that the PSC, as a constitutional body that is established in terms of Section 195 of the Constitution to provide oversight over the public service, we contribute to priority number 1 of the MTSF, that is building a capable and ethical developmental state. You will note as I take you through the presentation that PSC has had to revise its stretch plan to ensure that there's proper alignment between our stretch plan as well as our annual performance plan, in order to ensure that the repositioning of the PSC is executed as per the stretch plan. I'm skipping the situational analysis, Chair, as I said, because the acting chairperson has covered it. Now, coming on to the stretch plan, the areas of review are first and foremost our vision, mission, and values of the PSC. We've revised it and reviewed these 3 areas, and this is our new vision as a PSC, and the mission as well as the values, Chair. I want to spend time on the APP itself. With regards to the strategic focus of the PSC, what is important about what we're reflecting here is firstly, the ultimate outcome of what we envisage after the 5 years of implementing the strategic plan is that there should be an improved service delivery culture in the public service. And of course, the ultimate impact is to ensure that there is a responsive, ethical, and a values-driven public service that responds timelessly, efficiently, and effectively to the needs of the citizens. The strategic plan outputs, we've got 3 outcome indicators that are reflected here, Chair. 2 of them are externally focused and the 1 is internally focused. The first one on the improved service delivery culture in the public service. As a PSC, we want to see that by end of year 5, that there are a change in the processes within at least 6 departments, and that there is 100% improvement in the actual and potential conflict of interest within the senior management services in the public service, that the management thereof is improved 100%. With regards to the second outcome, that is on sound leadership practices in the public service, the PSC has planned to have 30 strategic engagements, particularly on the findings and recommendations from the PSC research reports, our investigations, as well as general observations that we have done. Members will note that the PSC only makes recommendations which are not legally binding, as one would have it with the public protector. And so through the strategic engagements, the PSC plans to ensure that the findings and the recommendations are implemented. Focusing on the ethics management framework, we want to ensure that this then becomes institutionalized within the public service. And so the plan is for year 1 and year 2, the PSC will conduct surveys on around ethics, particularly focusing on the cluster, the social, economic, and governance clusters. And then between year 3 to 5, we will then have feedback engagements to determine to what extent has that ethics management framework institutionalized. And the last outcome indicator as per our 5-year strategic plan is really internally focused on improving our efficiencies as an organization in the area of monitoring and evaluation. We're going to be looking at our systems of collecting data, which data is important to inform some of the systemic deficiencies within the department and get reported under our monitoring and evaluation program. So we're going to initiate that for this financial year, but by the end of year 5, we want to ensure that our IT systems are fully integrated with our data warehouse, so that then we are able to produce quality data that can be of use by the departments where we are pointing out areas of development. As a PSC, we also want to ensure that at least 60% of the recommendations that are produced by the PSC are implemented. That is what is planned for the next 5 years. Now, coming to the current APP, we have a total of 25 performance indicators that we planned for this financial year. It is divided into the 4 different programs, as members can see. Under program 1, we've got 7 indicators, 6 under program 2, 7 on monitoring and evaluation, which is program 3, and the last is on program 4. Program 1, it is quite self-explanatory, is the one that provides overall support to the PSC. As members know that the OPSC, which is the Office of Public Service Commission, is the one national department that provides secretarial and support services to the Public Service Commission. And these are the targets and indicators for the current financial year under program 1. It is maybe important for one to highlight the first one being maintaining an unqualified audit outcome opinion. In the past 2 years, the PSC has received a clean audit and would like to continue with that trend. What is also important about program 1 is that we plan to implement the productivity framework within the PSC so that then we determine to what extent are we as an organization productive and effective in delivering and providing the support to the Public Service Commission. If I then move on to program 2, which is really the core business of the organization, its main purpose is to provide and promote a sound public service leadership, as well as human resource management, labor relations, and labor practices within the public service. And these are the targets and indicators for program 2. The first target that one wants to highlight is, you would note that we are planning to resolve 85% of the grievances that are lodged by public servants in levels 2 to levels 12 within 30 days of receipt of relevant information. We are through the review of our stretch plan and APP. We have revised the target and adjusted it upward from 65 to 85%, and as well as the one for SMS grievances. We plan to resolve 85% of those within 45 days. Insofar as the production of research reports within leadership human resource management practices in the public sector, we've identified 3 areas that the PSC will be researching, as well as providing reports by the end of the financial year. And those are reflected there. The most important one, Chair, is really we want to assess what has been the impact of remote and hybrid working arrangements on employee productivity within the service delivery, as well as in the public service, in order to ensure that whatever human resource practices, systems, and policies that are being put in place, that they take into account the impact of remote and hybrid working arrangements. And we also want to produce a report study on the general management of discipline in the public service. Of course, the PSC will continue to contribute towards the professionalization framework, as colleagues have indicated earlier. Ultimately, we want to begin to see a reduction in the intake of grievances that are lodged within the PSC, because that then suggests that it is the systems within the departments themselves of managing and resolving grievances work. And so we'd like to see a 4% reduction in the number of grievances that ultimately reach the PSC. Insofar as the strategic engagements on the PSC's recommendations, the target for this financial year is 10. As we had indicated earlier, that in the 5-year period, PSC plans to have 30 engagements. But for this current financial year, we've identified the 10 strategic engagements. We'll, of course, also be reporting on grievances management and efficiencies, as well as the procedures and processes of dealing with grievances in the public service. And we intend to produce 3 reports in that regard. Moving on to program 3, which is monitoring and evaluation. And that is a program that really focuses on the monitoring and evaluating the effectiveness of service delivery through what we call service delivery interventions, which I will indicate now, Chair. So the first one is that PSC, in the work that we do, ultimately, we would like to see a change in the practices of public administration, especially if there's an indicator of a deficiency in the delivery of services. And so we're going to embark on a research study and produce 2 reports on the public administration practices where we have seen a change and an improvement. We will also continue to conduct service delivery inspections in the 9 provincial offices. As members would know, the PSC has a national footprint. We've got a presence in all 9 provinces, and each provincial office conducts service delivery inspections in the departments that have identified. So this financial year, we'll be introducing 10 reports, which will constitute of 9 in the provinces, as well as 1 national one focusing on the forensic science laboratories. There's been a number of reported cases of backlog in the system, and the PSC will then be conducting an inspection to see to what extent the systems within the forensic science laboratories can be improved. What is also a key and critical project for the PSC this year is focusing on engagement with the citizens and ordinary members of the public. And we are going to do that through what we call a citizens forum. It will be conducted in all the 9 provinces. We've already seen one that we've successfully concluded in the previous financial year in the Eastern Cape, where we identified one of the rural areas in Umtata, and we had a number of service delivery departments present. For example, your Department of Home Affairs, Labor, and so on, interacting with members of the public and ensuring that those required services are delivered on the day. And so we will roll it out to all the 9 provincial offices. Of course, annually, the PSC is required to produce what we call the Section 196 subsection 4E report in terms of the Constitution. It is a constitutional imperative, and we will be producing that report as we do annually. On the engagements on CVPs, which is the constitutional values and principles, members would know that under Section 195, the constitutional values and principles are reflected there, and the colleague in the DPSA has already touched on it in his presentation earlier. The PSC is mandated to promote the CVPs within public administration, and so we have planned to engage with at least 10 departments in a promotion of the CVPs. We'll also be producing 4 reports which really will be assessing the performance of a department. We've identified one department. In fact, they've approached the PSC themselves, and the team will already be starting to work with that department. In this case, is the Department of Justice, but by the end of the financial year, we would have produced 4 reports of departments that we will have identified. The acting chair has already covered on the area on the project of assessing the effectiveness of government support systems in the area of information and communication technology services. We also want to do the same in the accommodation and property management, looking at the services that is provided by the Department of Public Works, the support service around the office accommodation. We've received a number of complaints from various departments, and the OPSC itself as a department is being impacted on. And so by the end of the financial year, we would have produced 2 reports that will indicate where the systemic deficiencies are with recommendations of areas of improvement. Coming to the last program on integrity and anti-corruption, the name is quite self-explanatory. This is the program where not only do we house the National Anti-Corruption Hotline, but a number of public administration investigations are done. We also promote the professional ethics through the work that we do under this program. And so what is planned is that by the end of the financial year, we want to have resolved 75% of all investigations that we would have received. This Chair, is an indicator that we have revised out upward from 65 to 75%. The Constitution also allows the PSC to conduct its own proactive investigation. And so in this financial year, we have planned to conduct 2 own accord investigations in terms of Section 19, subsection 4 of the Constitution. Of course, with regards to the implementation of the ethics framework, we will continue to produce the 3 reports that we do every year on the financial disclosure framework, as well as the management of cases that are lodged with our National Anti-Corruption Hotline, and the report on financial misconduct. In the promotion of professional ethics within the public service, we've targeted to produce at least 4 articles through this financial year, and as well as have 3 engagements. We've had 1 successful seminar on the 26th of April, which was focusing on improving governance systems and processes in the public sector. And as a result of, we've seen the State Capture Commission report. We are planning to have another engagement in the middle of the second quarter, as well as the annual anti-corruption conference that we have in December. If I may then move on to focus on the province-specific projects. In the Gauteng province, the provincial officers identified the need for an intervention in the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture and Recreation, as well as the Department of Health. Already a strategic support task team has been established and is working with the provincial offices just to look at some of the reported problems with the effective functionings of these 2 provinces. They have identified the need to look at the working conditions of social workers, as well as the implementation and the running of the special economic development zones. And this is what the Western Cape province has planned to do an assessment of the work of the foster care placements via the Department of Social Development. And these are some of the projects that are identified in the Northern Cape province, as well as in the Free State. In the Eastern Cape, the minister in his opening remarks has also reflected upon some of the inspections that are planned in the provincial office, particularly around the bridge and the road infrastructure, which then prevents the learners to be able to access schools. In the KZN, over and above conducting on-site inspections as a result of the recent flooding, the province is planning to engage with the Department of Social Development through conducting on-site inspections on the various centers within the province, as well as in the licensing and testing centers in the KZN. The Provincial Office of Northwest will be focusing on the management of state fleet in the Northwest province, and will be able to produce a report by the end of the financial year. And we are seeing the reports that are planned in the Mpumalanga province to focus on the health facilities, a research report into the provincial treasury systems that are being utilized to track the payment of invoices, so to ensure that they are paid within the 30-day prescribed period. And these are the examples of what our provincial offices are planned to do in the current financial year, Chairperson. With your permission, can I allow my colleague, Mr. Zwelimo Mega, our CFO, to take us through the budget and the expenditure estimates. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. We can continue.
CFO. Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure if the CFO is able to take us through, but let me maybe just conclude the presentation, Chair, because it's only 3 slides. So what we have here is really just a summary of the budget allocation for the PSC. We have a total budget for the current financial year of 288 million, of which 75% is allocated for the compensation of employees. And the members should note that the compensation of employees includes the compensation of commissioners. We have a total of 14 commissioners in the establishment, although there are some vacancies which I know the provincial legislatures as well as the presidents are working on filling those vacancies. And then 24% of the budget really goes to goods and services, of which a majority of it is meant to pay for our operations in the provinces. And what we see reflected on this slide is how the budget, goods and services budget, is distributed across the four programs, Chairperson. I believe that then brings us to the end of the presentation. Thank you very much for the opportunity to give this presentation.
Thank you, DG, for taking us through the presentation from the Public Service Commission, both on its programs and also the expenditure budget. We will now invite the members of the Select Committee to engage with the presentation. I noticed that some of them had problems with the load shedding and got disconnected, but I've noted Honorable Tim, I've noted Honorable Dango, I've noted Honorable Khai. In that sequence, can we hit the ground running? Over to you, Honorable Tim Rafisa.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the opportunity. Chair, if I can just also apologize for Honorable Boshoff. She told me that due to load shedding, all her batteries had failed and she was down. And Chair, I'm coming from Acacia, so you know what the signal is like here. So I think I'll leave my camera off because it's probably just going to make it worse. Chair, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody who's presented tonight. Very detailed and lots of aspiration and hope and, you know, goodwill in terms of what the public service is trying to achieve. But Chair, you know, we all know that that's all well and good until the rubber hits the road. And so the kind of questions I would like to just ask, and the Honourable Minister has had engagement with me in the past in Scopa. He knows that I'm a straight shooter. A question around and I'm not going to give it its full name because I think even the Minister will agree that the full name of this unit is something else, but let's call it the Disciplinary Technical Assistance Unit. I know there's ethics and regulations and also in their title. That unit was promulgated in 2014, but only enacted in 2019, and I believe that the unit has had very little success in prosecutions. The unit itself has hours and has to refer everything to the SIU and to the Hawks and et cetera, et cetera. So can anybody please just come and give us an idea of the success of the unit now that I believe it is up and running? And, you know, how many matters is it dealing with? How many prosecutions have we had as a result of the work of the Technical Assistance Unit, and how much money have we recovered? So that was just the first issue, Chair. Then the issue of lifestyle audit.
audits. We've been speaking about lifestyle audits since the previous minister, Minister Nkunu. And I really would like a update on lifestyle audits, where we are with lifestyle audits. How many lifestyle audits have been conducted? How many are going to be conducted? I see there was a target for lifestyle audits. It didn't seem to be very clear as to how many are going to be. And then how many situations we had where a lifestyle audit hasn't tied up with the person's salary? In other words, the actual purpose of a lifestyle audit, where you see something's not making sense. If we can just get some comment on that, that would be very helpful. Sorry, my next question is about doing business with the state. I believe that this has been on the decline, and we're grateful for that. But if we could just get an update on where we are in terms of colleagues doing business with the state, and how many prosecutions we've had, let's say, in the last year, how much money recovered. And then the thing that concerned me, and I was just picked it up during the presentation, was PSC. Said that 65% of recommendations, the target is that the PSC will make recommendations, and they are hopeful that 65% of them will be adopted. So my immediate question is, why not more? Is the PEC saying that effectively the Public Service Commission will make recommendations and they really hope the department will pick up on 65% of them? In other words, they're not really respected. And to illustrate that, I would really like the PEC to tell us here tonight, over the past 3 years, what percentage of their recommendations have actually been accepted? What percentage? Because that will show whether or not the department's even listening to PEC, even taking them seriously. Because I know there was that whole argument about the independence of PEC because it's funded through the department's budget. So I really would like comment from the PEC as to why so low as 65%. And secondly, how many of the recommendations percentage-wise have been accepted in the last 3 years? And then finally, Chair, I do want to draw from the Zondo report. And the Zondo report, well, now Chief Justice Zondo spoke very strongly in terms of favouring a professional degree for service for working in the public service, and also a peer review system where public servants can be reviewed by their peers, similar to the legal profession or the accounting profession, and if complaints are received and they're guilty, they can actually be struck off the roll, as it were, and may never work in the public service again. Can the Public Service Commission or the department just tell us, have they taken note of the Zondo Commission recommendations in that regard? And what are they doing to work towards a professional degree in public service and also the peer review type system? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Tim Rataseth, for those questions. Let me then move over to Honorable Dango.
Chairperson, I will try and be effective, efficient, and economical with time. The first question is the APRM. There's going to be challenges there because these are outside and it's measuring persons who may not be, who are not South Africans. It is measuring other African leaders. Can they please explain to us how that is going to happen? Chairperson, then the question of Batupele. I still have to walk into a police station where the Batupele principles are up and prominent where people can see them. Are we talking only about compliance when we're talking about audits? Are we talking about efficacy and delivery so that it can be measured as to what has been delivered and not only filling in the blocks for compliance? When are we going to move to one public service, Chairperson? The question of ethics and whistleblowers. If whistleblowers are motivated by race, if whistleblowers are motivated by hatred of any kind, is that taken into context? And should that be taken into context when they look at? Honorable Tim has covered me on lifestyle audits. I think we've dealt with that. And then the question of hackathons. How has the Department of State Security looked at hackathons? Because that could be quite a dangerous thing to encourage that kind of thing. The SAAU agreements, what does the EU want in return? Let me leave it there, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dango. Honorable Fai.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Greetings to the Minister, the DG and the DGs and the leadership of the institutions that are reporting here this evening. Chair, if I may start with the department, I just want to see, because I see these priorities running across the department and the institution. Priority number one. I just want to check why only focusing on priority number one, because when you look at other priorities, you will find that they are also relevant to the department, but the focus is only on priority number one. If I can just get clarity on that, Chair. Also, I wanted to check with regard to, because this is a department that should always be exemplary. I just want to check why it has an acting position on DDG for negotiation, which is a critical program. And also, how long has this position been vacant? And also, if we could get a clarity on the HRMND, there's a name of Ms. Clark, as well as the acting DDG, Marcel Wilson. Can we just clarity there? Also, on the 2020 to 2025 MSTS targets, but this is also in the APP. Can I just get clarity? There's a talk of the regulations for PAMA 2014, which are still to be submitted to the relevant stakeholders. I don't know what those relevant stakeholders for their concurrence by 2024. But simultaneously, you are in the process of tabling amendments to the same PAMA, which again you will need to have regulations. So even before these are concurred by these relevant stakeholders, you would already have another new amendment act. So why go through the issue of regulation? Why don't you wait for the amendments to PAMA before you deal with the regulations? Because for me, there's confusion there, because it's going to be a repetition while you deal with the regulation, but also you're making amendments to PAMA, which ultimately will also again have to have a regulation. But also why it has taken so long, because this is a 2014 act, but you only introducing to the relevant stakeholders the regulations now in this financial year. So I just needed the clarity with regard to that, Chair. On program one, I just want to focus on the issues that are not reflected on program one. The issue of the percentage on procurement, for example, for women. President said that 40% of procurement should go to women. There's not, the department is silent with regard to that. Actually should be the champion of such as an example. And there's nothing with regard to the youth and people with disability. With regard also to people with disability, when it comes to vacancies, I've always thought that it is a department that came up with the 3% for the people with disability. But the department is lagging behind compared to other departments who are already at 3% with people with disabilities. But also on the payment period, that is within 30 days, the department is silent with regard to that target or indicator. Because the department keeps on talking about fighting corruption. This is an area also where corruption is involved. Many of small businesses collapsed because departments won't pay on time. But in some situations, businesses have to bribe those that are in the supply chain for them to be paid. So if you're fighting corruption, this is one of the areas that you must focus on and that you must report on, even in your APPs, that you are meeting the deadline of 30 days. On program 2, I just need clarity with regard to you're talking about the legislative framework with regard to the mandatory in-service training for public works. And now, when you talk about legislative framework, I thought that we're going to have a bill and then ultimately an act that governs this area. But then in terms of the indicators and the target, you're talking about the directive on mandatory in-service training for public service. If you can clarify for me, because you continue with this directive on mandatory in-service, and I don't see anything that refers to the legislative framework. And as legislators, we're supposed to be involved with regard to that. I just want to find out then on program 3 with regard to the collective bargaining policy, if there's going to be involvement of unions in terms of consultation and they're making inputs with regard to the policy, and also whether the policy will be discussed at NETLAC, where also other social partners are involved. I've been trying to check with this reviewed generic functional structure for program 1, which is administration. I'm trying to understand why is it under program 3, why it cannot be done by program 1. What is the relationship between program 3 and this particular generic functional structure for program 1? If you can just clarify it. I was trying to listen to the personal expenditure review. I couldn't get the details as to what is it that you want to review specifically with regard to the expenditure. I was listening attentively. If you can come back again and give us some details as what you will be really doing. I think most members have talked to the issue of the lifestyle audits. I'm also interested to know more, because I think the process is a bit slow. But also I wanted to check if there is any working together with SARS, because SARS for a very long time has been doing a selected lifestyle audits. I just wanted to find out if you're also working together with them with regard to this. On e-government services, I just want to check, because at some stage, I think towards the end of last year, we found out that the Department of Justice was hacked. To what extent is this e-government services and information management will be able to prevent such taking place in other departments as well. On program 5, I don't know if this would perhaps may be more relevant to PSC, because I wanted to check it whether from time to time the department or perhaps the PSC do conduct surveys around the issue of satisfaction by the citizen with regard to service delivery. But also I was thinking along the lines of maybe having complaints and compliment boxes in the departments where members of the public can write their level of satisfaction or whether they're not satisfied, and then perhaps a PSC would be the only ones that are able to open those boxes and perhaps see to what level or extent the electorate or the citizen are satisfied with the service that is rendered by the department. Lastly, on the department itself, the fact that departments, most of them close at 4:30, when there are some workers who are still at work during that time. Can the department, as a champion of public service, perhaps look at that? Chair, when I come to the Center for Public Service Innovation, I know it's got 2 programs, but we'll always raise the fact that under administration, we would like to know the vacancy rate, if there's any, the issues that I've highlighted around the issue of procurement of 40%, procurement towards youth and people with disability, the issue of 30-day payment period. They talk of also 2 interns. I want to check if those 2 interns will be at some stage be absorbed within the structures of the institution. The executive director, who's it's vacant, the position is vacant, and it is said that there are interviews. In fact, the position has been advertised. I just want to know first, how long has this position been vacant? And when are the interviews going to take place, and when are we going to have a permanent or the executive director? On the issue of innovation initiatives, there's a mention of Department of Home Affairs, real-time service delivery monitoring. I just want to check to what extent does it assist, because if you go to any Department of Home Affairs offices, you find long queues. I just want to check how does then this innovation help to reduce those queues, even though the report is a combination of annual report as well as APPs. I don't know when we invite you to come to present your annual report, what is it that you're going to do? Because you are already giving us your annual report when we are dealing with the APP. Then on MTEF budget, under transfers and subsidies on Center for Public Service Innovation, there's 1,000 rand there, just goes across. If I can get clarity for what is this 1,000 that is under transfers and subsidies. Chair, I don't have a question on the National School of Government, but I just wanted to, I didn't deliberately raise this issue of the PSC because I've raised it previously. So I thought this time around I must just keep quiet. Because I raised it in the past that in terms of the Constitution, 196 subsection 5. The PSC is accountable to the National Assembly. It's clear there under subsection 5, but also the DG also indicated section 196 subsection 4 E that they report once to the National Assembly about their activities. But what I want to suggest is that perhaps we need to get a legal opinion from the parliamentary legal unit and the procedure unit, whether PSC can, because maybe clarity on this thing that they say a section that says it's accountable to the NA. Does it mean that PSC cannot table its annual performance plans to the NCOP? It cannot table its annual report to the NCOP, so that we get clarity on those two areas, so that we will not confused as to whether we should invite them to come or not to come. Yeah, so I just wanted to that perhaps we have a clarity on that. Thanks so much.
Thank you, thank you, Chair, for the Honorable High for the questions posed. I also have some few questions to pose. Let me start with the following questions to the department. The first question will be whether, as a department, and correctly so, because we are at midterm review of our 5-year plan, can the department indicate to us as to whether are we on course in what the national development wishes on building a capable, ethical, and development state. This is important because the NDP also says that it is important that we have a zero tolerance to corruption, and it will be important just to get a sense as to whether, given the target by the NDP, can the department allay our fears in terms of all the programs that it has alluded to, particularly around zero tolerance to corruption, around lifestyle audit, around ensuring that employees or senior managers of all government departments go through the vetting process. Are we on course to have a zero tolerance? I think this is important also because even the medium-term strategic framework and SONA is categorical in saying that we need to intensify our fight against corruption, and also we need to ensure that we promote anti-corruption practices in the public service, and therefore it becomes important that we get a sense from the department as to whether are we on course. In terms of the Office of Compliance and Standards, as established in phase 1, in terms of implementing the Public Service Management Act, can we get a sense in terms of what are the lessons learned from the business case that was established in phase 1 in order to give clarity in terms of what to expect from phase 2 of the regulations, because it was indicated that a business case was established in phase 1 and that phase 2 will be centered around the regulations. The next question will be, what concrete support do the department give to provinces, particularly with regard to compliance with the public administrative legislative prescript? The next one will be, what will be the attributes of what the department is currently developing in the form of service delivery model in line with the district development model? On the tabling of both the Public Service Amendment Bill and the Public Administration Amendment Bill, I'm happy with the question that's posed by Honorable Khai. The next question goes to the Center for Public Service and Innovation. I'll be more interested in trying to get a sense in terms of given the emphasis on innovation and a number of departments identified, it will be important to get a sense, because you have alluded to the fact that there is a focus in terms of the province of Northwest, in terms of the province of Eastern Cape, and the province of Free State in terms of e-learning solution. It will be important to get a sense in terms of how do we ensure that, given the fact that Gauteng, in terms of its usage of smart board, the pocket library, and also the cyber tools. How do we ensure that this program is distributed to? I mean, the lessons learned from these programs is also then used in other provinces that necessarily might be starting to use this program for this year or from the last year, because definitely there will be lessons learned, because we have seen in terms of the outcome of grade 12, both Gauteng and Free State are always ahead of other provinces, and I want to believe that probably it could be as a result of the input of this e-learning solution in schools. The next one, Chair, to the National School of Government will be on there's in terms of your achievements, it might also be relating to the question that Honorable Khai has raised in terms of achievement. The target was 20,000. In the first year, you reach 43,411. And you characterize this as 166% achievement. Is there a reason to suggest that we sort of underestimated our ability to excel? Why was the target set so low? So low? Because this clearly indicates that in terms of planning, we should have had an opportunity to set our target at a very high level, not set it at 20,000, then we achieve 43,411. But the next one will be on giving the key issues that were raised by the Zondo Commission. It will be important to get a sense from the principal whether project management, financial management, change management, and senior management level courses would not be a priority, so that we are then able to mitigate some of the challenges that we observed from the Zondo Commission, which in most cases could have been facilitated by the management, and hence the importance of the courses around project management, financial management, change management at senior management level. The second one related to that is the view of the National School of Government around what measures do we have in place to mitigate the cybersecurity attack that could derail the digital learning and also the digitization of learning material to avoid the interruption of learning. And then the last one on National School of Government will be what is it that the school is doing to improve its debt collection strategy to avoid and mitigate what was raised to us with regard to the impact of the pandemic on your revenue crisis management. Then the last one from the Public Service Commission from my province, I've seen that my commissioner has there's a number of targets there. The target around I've seen 5 of them, so I just want to understand what informs those targets under the provincial, province specific. Under Northern Cape is the dispute prevention in all departments in the Northern Cape, the implementation of Protected Disclosure Act in terms of whistleblowing by departments, and the study on officials, level 8 and 9, who are conducting business with the state in Department of Economic Development, and assessing the quality of services rendered in the Northern Cape Departments of Health and Social Development. The reason I'm raising this point is because I see that other provinces, they will have 1 or 2 targets. But of course, let me pause there and hand over to the Minister and the team. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Thank you very much, Chairperson, and the honorable members.
Can the honorable minister just correct his screen so that at least you are seen by the public? We are only seeing your half of yourself. Yes. Can again.
Thank you. Thank you. You see me now?
Yes, we can see you, honorable minister.
Thank you. Well, what I was saying, Chairperson, just one question. Maybe the DG will expand on this.
Can you correct it again, Minister? Because we are only seeing half of your face. Yeah.
I'm saying, Chairperson, maybe the DG will have to add on this. The issue of the Zondo Commission, which has been released, the departments are hard at work in trying to look at the recommendations and the various possible actions they are going to take, putting a program. But that is going to be interdepartmental. It's not a single department coming with its own thing. And that is also going to be guided by the executive. That's where we are with that particular process. But on all the others, because they are specific to the various entities, including the department, I will allow the DG to respond and the various entities to respond. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. DG?
Thank you, Chairperson. It's quite a number of questions. I have colleagues who are also in the call, so they should be able to take some of them. As I respond to questions, I'll also just refer to some of the colleagues, and the Chair may take a decision whether you would like the colleagues to respond. The first questions around the technical advisory unit, which relates to the number of prosecutions, the lifestyle audits, how far are we, the situations where audits have not tied up with the salaries of the people, what has happened, the impact of the technical advisory unit generally on things like doing business with the state, some of the projects, how many prosecutions. We have in line here the Chief Director who's responsible for the technical advisory unit, Dr. Solomon. The Chair may decide if he wants him to respond now, or what I would rather suggest is that perhaps the committee could set aside some time and get a very detailed briefing on the work of the technical advisory unit and some of the successes, challenges, as well as the impact of the work that we are picking up in the system. The Zondo Commission response, I think the Minister has covered the matter sufficiently. I don't have to add anything. Then there was an issue around the targets related to the APRM. I just wanted to clarify here that the APRM, there's a country leg, there's an Africa leg. So as the department, we are responsible for certain deliverables that relate to the country leg. In the previous financial year, we completed the process of a review, our own review, second generation review in terms of the APRM instrument as a country. The President launched the report in February, and now the processes are around developing the action plan in terms of implementing some of the issues coming out of that particular report and recommendations. So there's lots of work that we're doing that is internally focused in South Africa. Of course, we have partners that are in the Africa region that we work with and we also benchmark with in respect to our work. But our targets are really about things that we can be able to deliver on. The concerns around Batupile principles, I think it's feedback that we get everywhere. We have gone back to cabinet around Batupile principles in terms of moving it to beyond being a campaign, but to have specific measurables or issues that we are targeting, that we are working on, the standards that we issue for departments. One of the standards that we're working on currently just relates to a basic issue like queue management. So if we have an agreed standard around queue management with departments, and then we monitor the implementation of that standard so that we don't have a situation where in winter we have long queues of people who are standing for to get into whether it's SARS or it's Home Affairs or it's the Post Office. I missed the question around ethics and whistleblowers. I don't know if my colleagues were able to pick up what the specific question was on that one. But however, the Chief Director, Technical Advisory Unit can also give a briefing on some of the work that we are doing around ethics and whistleblowers. There was also another question on why we're focusing on priority number 1. So how work of government is organized and the MTSF program, deliverables for DPSA and entities that work with the DPSA, those countries that we call the center of government, their work is organized under priority 1. It does not mean we don't work with other priorities because we provide a supporting role in other priorities, but our key programs are residing within priority 1. Why acting positions? The DDG negotiations position was vacant from December 2020. And we have not been able, we advertised twice and we have struggled to find the right candidate to meet this position. And we currently have a DDG who's acting in the position. We have had to go back and review the specifications of the position, and it's a process now that we are going to process with the minister so that there could be at the right time a re-advertisement of the position itself. We've had to go back, review the specs, as well as do a job evaluation exercise after reviewing the specs. HRM&D, Ms. Clark, and DDG, acting DDG Marcel. Ms. Clark is a DDG appointed for this role, but is on suspension, and therefore DDG Marcel was acting at the time of this report. And however, DDG Marcel is no longer acting now. We have another person acting because the case, the suspension and the disciplinary case of DDG Clark has not yet been completed. Regulations for PAMA 2014. So there's two processes here. The regulations, we started the regulations in the 2019-20 financial year, but the cumbersome process of getting stakeholders to agree on the regulations, in particular, SALGA, Minister of Finance and Minister of COGTA, has taken a very long time. We only received all 3 concurrences that we required in the last quarter of the past financial year. So that's work that started in 2019, I think 1920 financial year. And we are hoping that these regulations will be passed and implemented within the current financial year that we're in at the moment. They are not going to wait for 2024. The second issue linked to this is the amendment bill. So the issues that are being addressed in the regulations are not issues that are addressed in the amendment bill. The amendment bill is a different process. We have worked on the amendment bill as DPSA. It's still with the bargaining council processes for consultations, and it will go to Parliament in the current term. We had a plan to take it to Parliament at the end of the financial year, but we did not achieve that target because the minister at the time took back the documents for further review and further input by the bargaining council, and those documents have not come out of the system of the bargaining council yet. The collective bargaining policy is an internal policy that guides us internally in government around, or in the department around, how we deal with the bargaining processes. It's also been influenced by decisions that have come out of courts in respect to how the department has handled the 2018 issues of negotiations and agreements. So it does not need that level of consultation that also goes to NETLEC and etc. Because it is an internal management tool that we are working on. The generic functional structures review, why on program 3? Because how DPSA is arranged is that program 1 focuses on internal departmental issues. Program 2, 3, 4, 5 focuses on supporting government directly, national and provincial governments, the monitoring, the mandate issues that we have to deal with. So the review of program ones is a structure that is a program that cuts across all departments. We're reviewing all program ones of all departments. What has triggered this is basically that we always get complaints that program one takes all the resources in departments, is overloaded, there's too many people in program one. So this review is aimed at looking at how we manage the growth of program one. But also linked to this is a review that we're doing on regulations and with the aim of reducing red tape in the public service. The president has spoken a lot about the issue of red tape. So from our side, we are doing some work around how we reduce the red tape in terms of some of the regulations that we have that we can be able to live without or that have even made an impact. Do we benchmark with SARS or do we talk with SARS on lifestyle audits? Yes, we've benchmarked with SARS. We've learned a lot from them, and it has influenced our strategy. E-government services, to what extent would we be able to prevent hacking that takes place like it has happened at NSG and at Justice? There is a colleague here who is Mr. Mdau, who is also an acting DDG, who is responsible, who can provide a response in respect to this. The other issue, are we on course in building a capable ethical state? I can only just say for now, there's lots of interventions that are being put together to build a capable and capable state and an ethical state. And yes, I think we are on course, but I do think that there's a lot of coordination that needs to take place and sharing in terms of resources. In terms of the decisions and the priorities of chapter, of priority one, which is our responsibility as this cluster or as this portfolio, I think that there's a lot of work that's happening there, and we can again isolate some of those projects or programs specifically on the capacity of the state that the committee may want to get more information on. There was a question about vetting of employees. Are we on course? I just want to indicate that in terms of our regulations, there is no employee who should be employed in the public service without at least the basic security screening that confirms that their qualifications are not fake, that confirms that they don't have a criminal record. If they have a criminal record, they declare it properly, that they are not sitting in any boards. If they're sitting in any boards, it must not be businesses that are doing government business with the state and etc. So that process, our regulations require each and every employee to go through that process. Then there's a higher level of vetting that gets done for people at senior level, I think at SMS level and other portfolios, which is usually done by SSA, where SSA has experienced a lot of backlog. They've indicated that they've not been able to do their work maximally due to COVID, but they've generally struggled with the backlogs in terms of this work. But this basic security screening gets done before appointments are made. OSC, what are the lessons learned from the business case establishment of OSC? We've used the previous financial year really for OSC to find itself and to develop a program. And in terms of our plans in the current financial year, they should be really doing some work in respect to a project to their mandate. One of the things that we have picked up in the benchmarking and that we have done with standards and audit bodies is that the OSC should focus more on assessment of capacity, of compliance, of capabilities instead of audits, because AG already does audits. So there's some work there that the colleagues are doing to ensure that we build capacity in terms of enforcement, in terms of our assessment capability. What concrete support do the department give to provinces? We work very closely with the provinces. We have lots of engagements with them on a quarterly basis. As part of my responsibilities, I do lots of work with provinces, directly going to provinces to engage with them on matters of compliance and matters of capacity of the state. And we have received high levels of cooperation. Many provinces are improving in terms of their compliance. We have done a report on assessing their compliance in the past financial year, and we have indicated to them that these reports we are going to do them annually. So we should be able to brief the committee as well on the state of compliance of provinces. But I am picking up we are picking up improvements in certain areas of the work. They are keen to learn and improve on how they are doing things, the DGs in provinces. Support to DDM, there are colleagues here who are dealing with the district development model. They should be able, from the service delivery unit, they should be able to give specific detail. But I can say that one of the work we've been doing is around support on the one plan in terms of supporting the capabilities in relation to DDM. I know that the principal as well at NSG has been doing some work with local government, looking at more training for local government, for employees from local government. There was a comment or a question, the last one I picked up, around the 1,000 rands per month agreement. This was an agreement that was done out of the negotiations for 2021. The key agreement there was that there would be a 1,000 rands once-off payment as a salary increase for colleagues. And then there would be a 1.5% that goes into the baseline, which means it will affect the pensions in terms of improving the pensions, the increases with pensions, and etc. So there is an agreement signed between Labour and government in respect to that 1,000 rands per month, which employees are getting. Chair, from my side, I have tried to answer all the questions I've picked up. I might have missed some critical questions, I'm not sure. And Chair, you will guide on what you want to do about some of the questions I couldn't answer. I've suggested that colleagues may answer, or we may just have to come back to some of them because they are detailed and brief the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, DG. I've observed that we are almost reaching the time, which makes it then a bit difficult for other institutions to respond. We will then agree that the entities together with the department can give us those responses in writing within the next coming 7 days, so that as we table the report to the House, it should include the responses that's given by the department, and also the Center for Public Service Innovation, the National School of Government, and also the Public Service Commission. Having said that, let me then give over to the Minister just the last word before we close the meeting. Is the Minister still around, or the Deputy Minister? DM?
I'm still around.
Your last word, because of the pressure of time, we'll expect the team to give us responses in writing within the next coming 7 days. Minister, any last word from your side?
What I can say, Chairperson and honorable members, we've listened and we've taken notes, the concerns, and we will always take your comments or your concerns and criticisms as constructive in order for us to be able to improve, and in particular the service delivery, because that's what is key. And I think the whole issue of professionalizing the public service is very central, where we have to talk about the new values. We have to talk about the new cultures of work and the ethics. It's a very serious matter. And one of the issues which has been raised, until such time that as government, and in particular, we are able to digitize, we will not be able to improve e-service delivery. So the issue of ICT becomes very central in improving e-service delivery in this country, if we have to have new ways of working. Thank you very much for all the comments. There's nothing negative, it's just building us, and we will stick to that. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Let me then take this opportunity on behalf of the honorable members of the Select Committee of Transport, Public Works and Infrastructure, and Public Service, extend a word of gratitude to you, Minister, and your team, together with the school principal, the chair of Public Service Commission, and my fellow commissioners, and to the DG and her management, and also the parliamentary staff in the form of this committee secretary and the researcher. Say that indeed you help us to ensure that by the 17th of June, we'll be able to formally ensure that we pass all our budgets because of the work that we are doing, because of the seriousness within which you took this exercise. So with those few words, the meeting stands adjourned.
Recording stopped.
Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members.
Recording
Thank you,
stopped.
everyone.
Come on, Chair, come on.
Comrade Minister.
Thank you, comrade. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. We'll see you again shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, comrade team. Thank you.